So unfortunately it's got to that time of year again and exams are almost upon us, and I remember a year ago I was in a lot of your positions now where you're coming up to your GCSEs and you're like, how on earth am I going to get all the content in? How am I going to fit everything in my life over the next couple of weeks to make sure I'm actually ready for these exams? So yesterday I put on Instagram if you had any questions, and basically this is actually turned into a Q&A because I got a load of really good questions that basically formed this video. So I will put in the description when I answer each question if you're here for one specific thing, but I will probably go off on a tangent several times, so why not stick through the whole thing? So if this is your first time watching one of my videos, then hi, my name is Ella and I'm currently in year 12 studying 4 A-levels, which are art, English lit, maths and further maths. For GCSE I did English lit and language and maths and triple science as my course, with geography as a humanity, and then French and further maths and fine art, and I think that's all of them. So all of these questions are based around what I did in the last few weeks coming up to GCSEs, and basically this is from my experience. People have asked me questions that I've put my own personal twist on, so I'm not speaking for everyone in general, I'm speaking for what I personally did. But I do think some of the things I will mention in this video are what helped me get the grades that I did. So I got 8 9s, 1 8 and 1 A star, which was further maths because it was on the old spec. So I really do think that me doing some of these things really helped me get to those grades. So no matter whether you're aiming for those grades or not, well, you just want to do your best, and hopefully maybe implementing some of these things can help you get there. Okay, so these questions aren't in any particular order, but the first one is, what did I do for revision the night before the exams? So when it came to the night before the exam, I never really liked to focus on one specific topic. Say if I had science coming up, I wouldn't focus on unit 1 and then neglect the other 8, because in my mind, and this was me being paranoid, I would forget everything else that I'd learned and, you know, only know that one bit, and then I'd fail the exam and my life would be over. None of that's true, but what I didn't do is focus on specific things, because what I wanted to do was cover the whole content, or as much of the content as I could, the day before. So this isn't like, you know, intense, in-depth kind of in every single subject, but I would do things like reading over my mind maps, going through flashcards, doing active recall, so that I could get through a lot of revision material in a short space of time. So if you haven't seen how I revised for the various subjects, one of the things I did for, I think, science and geography were mind maps, and for me that was really helpful because it meant that some nights, and I used these the night before the exam, I would read over all of the mind maps that I'd made, because for me reading does help with my revision. If you are one of those people that does it and then switches off in the first 5 minutes, then you need to find out what works for you. Maybe that's blurting or flashcards or whatever it is. But for me, it just helped me because it was more familiarization with the content. It was more me reassuring myself that I know the content, and that I wasn't being, or I was being paranoid, because I was like, I don't know this and I don't know that. And you will get that time where you suddenly feel like you've forgotten a topic and you need to go back to it, and then you forget another one and you need to go back to it. So going over all of my revision resources, or well, I say all, I didn't go through all of the notebooks I made in year 10, which were absolutely ridiculous. I went over the stuff that I'd made that consolidated my revision to make sure that I was covering the broad spectrum of information. And if there were any difficult topics that I really wanted to focus on, then I would do that. So things like, for science, it was the motor effect in physics. For maths, any difficult topics like, oh, I can't remember, things in particular, but maybe equations, things like that. You'll know your weaknesses and you'll know your strengths, so you'll know that you don't need to spend a lot of time on your strengths the night before, and you can focus more on your weaknesses. So I have jotted down some notes, and I thought I would just bullet point what I did for certain subjects that would come under that bracket of covering a wide range of things. So for example, French, I used Quizlet a lot and also Memrise, but on Quizlet I found, I think it was the whole spec, but basically a teacher had uploaded all of the vocab words we needed for our spec, and I had been working through that for the first, for the months before that, and I just thought, the night before, what I would do is I would do like those games on Quizlet where you literally just go through words like rapid fire, and again it's just that constant active recall and the refreshment of certain words that were in the back of your mind but you just need to bring them up again. Science, maths and geography were what I had already just mentioned, so mind maps, flashcards, going over difficult topics if I needed to, but covering the broad range of the spec, so doing whatever you've done for revision, whether you've made condensed notes, whether you've made flashcards, whether you've made mind maps, whatever you've done, use those revisions resources now. You've made them for a reason. And also for English, which is kind of different, because especially for like English lit, oh well, actually for English language as well, it's more about how you answer the question. So the night before I would basically look over question structure and maybe some essay plans if I wanted to for English lit. But say for English language, I was on AQA, and it was very much, you just need to write in a certain structure and you'll get those marks. So it was me just consolidating. I had written like little acronyms for each question, and it was me just remembering which one went with which question, and basically just, again, reassuring myself that I knew what I was doing. Next question is, how many past papers did you do? Now, I can't actually tell you a real number because I don't know. But I know that because I was one of the first years going through, and in some instances the first year going through in my GCSE, I didn't have a lot of past papers or resources like that for me to just use freely. So what I did do is preserve them towards the end of the year, because obviously once you've done a past paper, you can never fully guarantee that on a brand new past paper you get that exact mark if you then did it again, because obviously you're becoming more familiar with the mark scheme, you know what to revise and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to make sure that I had some past papers in the last couple of weeks before the exams that I would do that I'd never seen before, to give myself an accurate like outlook on what I would get in the exam. Now obviously you've done your mocks probably, and you will be doing things in class. I know I did a lot of exam questions in class, and exam questions are the things that I tended to focus on. So the mocks are really useful because past papers obviously allow you to make sure that you're spending your time wisely and that you can finish in the time you're given. But exam questions are what really got me through, basically, is because I could focus on taking the questions that I knew I wasn't that confident on. So I didn't need to do a load of multiple choice questions, which would be in the practice paper, because I knew I did alright at them. But what I failed at a lot was the longer answer questions, because obviously they're towards the end and you're brain dead by that point. So what I wanted to do was a load of practice questions to make sure that I'd got that technique down, so that it was just me using the knowledge. So it took a bit of stress out of those longer answer questions. So past papers, I can't give you a number. I did probably, I can't, so for like English, language paper 1 I did like 3 or 4, language paper 2 maybe a few more, and this was over year 10 and 11, so things like mocks, things that we'd done in class, all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, I literally couldn't give you a number, but exam questions, a lot. And yes, okay, you can run out of time in some areas, like one day you might not do any exam questions. Don't, you know, think it's the end of the world. I didn't do them every single day, but I made sure that once a week I would do something for each subject that was like exam technique or something like that. And my teachers were actually really nice, because I say nice, they gave me homework, but the homework that they gave me was like really useful, so I forgive them for it. It was things like exam questions. So in geography, my teacher kept giving me 6-mark questions because I could not get 6 marks on them. So he kept giving me them until I finally got the exam technique, and it was all because I just repeated doing different exam questions. Whether you do past papers, exam questions, whatever it is, you know, related to exam technique, why not get your teacher to mark them? So for some subjects you can just use the mark scheme. So for like maths or science, you might just be able to use the mark scheme and mark your own work. But for things like English, you need your teacher to mark you, because you're not an examiner, so you won't be able to mark your work really accurately. So I always got my teacher to mark them, and then the next thing was to redraft and sometimes make an essay plan, which is what I'm actually doing in A-level right now, because I'm doing English lit. So I've got all my essays that I've done over the course of the year, and I'm now making essay plans out of them. So I'm putting them on flashcards or like little scraps of paper, where I read through the essay and I pick out the quotes I've used, the main points I've used, and basically form the essay in a little like chunk of information. And obviously that can help you properly think about how you structure your essay, because I can sometimes see that in some essays it's a bit muddled. I can't really form an essay plan from it, so I know that it's probably not the best structured essay, and they tend to be the low mark ones as well. So yeah, redrafting is amazing to boost your grade and make sure that you're targeting your weaknesses, that you're not just keep on repeating the same thing over and over. Next one, how did you make sure you finished all of the content? And I have one word: consolidating. So year 10, I decided to make notebooks for every single science and geography, and thought that I could add everything from the revision guide, every bit of notes from the textbooks that we were given, and from the class notes. Surprise, surprise, that didn't work because I never got past like chapter 1. I would never cover all the content because I wasn't consolidating, I was just collecting. And that is not what you want to do. So when I talk about consolidating, again, my mind maps, they are consolidating. I had like one sheet of A4 paper for one unit in a science. So that is consolidating because you're getting rid of all the unnecessary information, and I could go through a couple of units, so like a third of the course in one day, in one study day. So I'm not talking like in an evening, but like if I was like, right, today I'm going to do loads of work for studying, tend to have been exhausted by the end of the day. Don't recommend doing it every single day, but when you get to this kind of exam period, you do end up doing that. It's just a truth. But that meant that I could cover a lot of content, and it was because I had to think realistically, what am I actually going to need in the exam? So again, thinking about English, because it's a good example, you don't need 50 quotes for Romeo and Juliet. You need like a couple of quotes for each theme, because realistically in your essays you only need a couple of quotes. You just need the quotes that you can analyse the most and that you can take the most information out of. So thinking about science, instead of writing a whole paragraph of information, why not think of a couple of words that you can then springboard other bits of information from? So you're thinking about prompts that will help you think, like recall other images and other pieces of information, other like equations, whatever it is, in the exam. Because I don't know about you, but looking at a 100-page quote bank isn't going to get me anywhere. But looking at 10 flashcards and one for each theme, that's going to get me somewhere, because I have... Actually, I'm going to show you. Okay, so this is one of the notebooks that I used. Oh my god, it's covered in dust. This is one of the notebooks I used for English, and it's not full, because I didn't need all of it, because I was consolidating. But I decided, I think this was actually a couple of days, even the day before my exam. This is me consolidating my knowledge, making sure I knew everything I needed to know. So each of these pages is, and the highlighted things are like quotes, and then around it I've just put like a line of analysis for each that would then springboard other ideas from it. This is one character, which also links to like 3 or 4 themes and all that. This is how many quotes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 quotes for a whole character who is a very major character in the play, and also a load of themes. And again, so I've got one for Mrs. Burling, one for Gerald. Each page is a character, and that is all of the quotes that I took from Mini Spectacles. And then I went further, because then I started making essay plans. So there's an essay plan. I know I've got small handwriting, you can't really see much, but I've got the question at the top and then 3 bullet points with my 3 points, because I'd write generally 3 paragraphs in an essay, so that's my essay style. That is me consolidating. And again, I've done a bit more blurting on this page, so I've just put Sheila at the top, and then I blurted all the quotes that I knew about her, and a lot of it was from the page that I just made on her. So yes, I get it. There is a lot of stuff, a lot of subjects, and you can feel like there's a lot of content that you need to know, but please don't make it harder on yourself by trying to learn more than you actually need to. So again, thinking about, say, geography case studies, you need to know like 3 facts for a location, but we got given like pages of information, but you just pick what you know you'll remember, and then you can springboard from that. I found this question quite interesting. What do you do if you're not given study leave? Now, I have a bit of a funny story, because, right, it's not funny at all, but okay, my school works on different term times. So right now I'm filming this in the Easter holidays, but I've just come back from school. So when everyone is on this big 2.5 week break before the GCSEs and everyone's preparing for Easter, I'm halfway through my term. So my school works on 8 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So I have an 8-week term and then 2-week break every 8 weeks. So we start, and it's going to sound awful, we start in the middle of August, It's actually not bad at all. We do 8 weeks, 2 weeks off, 8 weeks, 2 weeks at Christmas. That's the only time we join with the rest of the schools. 8 weeks, 2 weeks, and this is the next 8 weeks. We're in term 4. We have 5 terms in a year. Now, the 2-week break after term 4 is the first 2 weeks of the GCSE exams, because then the rest of the schools have their holiday the day we get back from our holiday. So we just come off of holiday, everyone else goes back on holiday. So everyone has this Easter break, and I was still stuck in school. So I felt annoyed, because when I could see everyone else on Easter break revising, doing their own thing, knowing what they need to do. I mean, not everyone was revising, obviously, but you have that time to revise what you know you need to revise, whereas I'm stuck in school doing what the teacher thinks we need to revise. And yeah, they were really good. They covered a lot of information in a short space of time, and I'm very glad I was in school at that point. But what I'm trying to say is, I had those 8 weeks in this term that I'm in right now, and then the 2 weeks that I was meant to have off as my break, I was in GCSE mode, so I was in school almost every day. So at that point, at the end of my holiday, I had 10 weeks doing work, doing intense GCSE revision. Then I had a week's break where I was at school and we were doing revision, but everyone else was off, so GCSEs were off. And then I had like 3 more weeks of exams. So basically, I think I worked it out, I had 14 weeks where I didn't feel like I had a proper break. So technically I didn't have study leave, because my school didn't let us come off. So we did ask, the week we were meant to come back to school, and everyone else was off, so GCSEs were off. We were like, can we have this week off, because we've been in for the past 2 weeks? And the school was like, no, you need to come in, we've got a revision session for you. And we're like, I want to sleep, but you know, we had to come in. So yeah, technically I didn't have study leave. Now obviously the first 2 weeks of exams I was off of school, so when I didn't have an exam I usually wasn't in school, I was at home revising, but occasionally I would go in for revision sessions anyway if I wanted to go to them. Pro tip, go to them, they're really useful. But basically what I want to put across is that study leave is not essential for you to get good grades, because sometimes you being at school is the best thing that you could do. Because although we all like to pretend that we'll do loads of work at home, there are distractions at home that you wouldn't get at school. Now, yes, there's a better environment at home, arguably, because you're not in a stressed out environment and you can do what you want when you want, but sometimes you do need that structure to make sure that you actually get things done on time, and your teachers tend to know how to shove a lot of content in one lesson. Your school will also probably change your timetable as exams go on, because obviously at one point you'll have done English and another point you'll have done maths. I know towards the end, I think the last week of all the exams before people finished on the physics exam, I still had further maths, so I still had time in school. But that week we literally just did science. So one day it was all biology, another 2 days it was all chemistry, and another 2 days after that it was all physics. So our school accommodated for the fact that, yes, okay, we understand you're not going to need to go to a PE lesson when you've not got any exams to do with that subject. In fact, our school got rid of compulsory PE lessons pretty early on in the year, or we just stopped going to them. But either way, we didn't have them, or they weren't a necessity. So our school changed our timetable, and they want you to do the best that you can, just as you do. So they know that, you know, things need to be changed, and yes, okay, those days were draining, but having like 5 lessons of biology actually really helped, because it meant that when I got home I didn't need to cover a lot of content before the exam. So if you do have study leave, then please make sure that you use your time at home wisely, and don't take it for granted, because we're all wishing we were you. And make sure that, yes, be aware there are going to be distractions, and you need to be able to work around them and be able to stay focused even when you're in a different environment than school. If you're not on study leave, then it's not the end of the world. Push through and make sure that you are taking every minute that you get with your teachers to the best of its ability, because they are so useful, and you don't realise that until you don't have it. You've only got a couple more weeks. You've got your study leave, like your 12-week holiday. That's why I call it study leave. Okay, so the next one is, did you cram at all? And short answer, yes. Everyone panics before an exam. Everyone's like, oh my god, I've forgotten everything about this topic. I need to revise every single thing. And then they'll jump to another topic, and that was me. That was totally me. The night before the exam, you just get this sudden urge to be like, I need to cover everything and anything on this spec. And yeah, so you just need to take a step back and think, okay, what things do I actually need? So yes, I did cram because I wanted to get as much information. I've talked, like, this was like the first question. It kind of links to that in the sense that I tried to cover the whole spec, and when I say the whole spec, I don't mean every single detail, but I mean glancing at each topic and making sure I'm comfortable with what is in there. My other version of cramming was the day on the exam, and I don't recommend it, but sometimes you just feel like you need to do it. Like everyone says, oh, you know, take a deep breath, you know, don't study after like 5 p.m. or whatever, and don't look at your textbook in the morning. But I had a panic 15 minutes before my English language exam because I'd forgotten like the structure of one of the questions, and I needed to run to my locker to like get my revision and just quickly look at it. I was like, oh yeah, I need that. Sometimes when you panic, you're just panicking. You've just got, you know, your brain, your exam brain, where everything just goes blank. You just need to like step back and think, okay, I know this. It's in there. It's in my brain. I revised it last night. It's there. Sorry, I'm getting pins and needles in my foot. That's like disrupting the calming moment that I was just doing. But it's there. You're just in the heat of the moment, and once you're sat there and in the exam, and when you're on the roll, when you're in the flow of the questions, it will come to you. I've got really bad pins and needles now. So yeah, I think the main reason I like crammed was to reassure myself, but it wasn't what got me the grades that I did. Cramming the night before and thinking, like, if you're thinking you can leave it all to the last minute, you can't. You can't, because the way I crammed was just covering everything and like getting that recognition rather than trying to learn it. It was, yep, I know that, yep, I know that, bit hazy on that, I'll go over that, yep, I'm on, you know, that kind of like checking off. But if you've left it all to the last minute, you can't cram it, because there's an extent where cramming just like brain overload and you won't remember anything. So when I say I crammed, I don't mean I crammed to such an extent that it then damaged what I remembered. So yeah, there's a fine line, and I can't tell which, you know, where it is for each and every one of you, but a good sign is if you're staying up till 2 AM before the exam, you're doing too much. There's no amount of cramming that can help you get through that exam if you're staying up that late, because sleep is more important than doing another half an hour of trying to learn that Pythagoras' theorem or whatever. Okay, so lastly, and I can already tell this is probably going to be a long video, but extra tips that I have, because I just want to make sure that you're okay in these next couple of weeks. If you have any more questions, then leave them down below. I can always do a part 2. But I mentioned it previously, my first tip is please attend all of those revision sessions you get invited to. Now, I'm going to put my hand up. I did not go to every single one. As in, further maths, they wanted me... Right, okay. My exams were Tuesday and Thursday of week 4. And at that point, that was my only time that I had study leave. Because everyone else had come off. They were finished with exams. Most of them anyway. Because physics was the last one for a lot of people. So the school actually allowed us to stay at home if we wanted to. For the last 2 week further maths exams. But my exams were Tuesday and Thursday. And they put revision sessions on Monday and Wednesday. And I was like, no, I'm not going to them. And for me, further maths was a subject that I could do at home and feel like I still got the same benefit. But for things like English, where I knew my teachers were amazing at covering a load of content in a short space of time, you bet I went to every single one of those revision sessions I could make. Whether they were after school, whether they were in a break at school, whether they were at the holidays when I was meant to be at home chilling out, I was in school doing those revision sessions, because it meant that at home I didn't need to do as much work, because it goes back to covering all the content. They will do it faster than you will, because they know the stuff that you actually need to learn rather than you who wants to cover every single thing. And trust me, I've been there. I wanted to cover every single thing. I can't speak now. and you just can't. However, it does not replace your revision. So I still revised at home even though I went to those revision sessions. Say if I made notes in those revision sessions, I would then go home and add them to my revision resources, whether it be to my mind maps for science, to my flashcards for geography, to my random post-it notes that were on the wall for maths, to my essay plans for English, whatever it was, I added it to my revision resources and consolidated it so that I didn't see 5 pages of notes from a revision session, I saw 5 flashcards. Another thing is get a calendar if you haven't already, like a monthly, you know, calendar for May, June, whenever your exams are, and write down where each of your exams are. Actually, I've got mine from last year. So I actually got this, it's one of these calendars, oh how cute puppy, but you know, like the monthly ones, and then they give you like the year with it. So Louis had the whole calendar because he wanted it, and I had the year. So I started this in January, but really it was just because I wanted to tick every single day off. So I don't know whether you can see, but every single day is ticked off, and whenever I had deadlines I would put it in. For June I had written down all of my exams, like May and April, because I had my art and French speaking exams in April, and then I'd highlighted the day in green when I actually had a GCSE exam, and then I put my holiday sticker, where is it, there, right at the end, because that was the end of all of my exams. And I was so sad. I also put on the side like when I'd finished certain subjects and I'd never have to look at a geography book again and all that kind of stuff. What that does is it just helps you keep things in perspective. Right, okay, I've got 3 weeks before this exam. How can I break down my revision to make sure I get there on time and, you know, cover all the content? And also, although it might look scary, if you're feeling like you're not, you know when you feel like numb, that it's not hit you yet, doing something like that might actually help it just sink in. Like, yeah, okay, I've got 3 weeks or 4 weeks or however long you've got. Sorry to scare you, but it's true. Another thing I did, and I wish I could show you, but I don't have my bullet journal on me, it's with someone else right now, but I wrote down my exam timetable. That was pretty pointless, but the other thing was pretty useful. So I wrote down when all my exams were, like I did on the calendar. I think this came in a moment of absolute stress and panic. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. So I was like, right, okay, I'll write a list. That's normally what happens because I'm sad like that. But then I lovely English there. I then wrote a page next to it where I looked at, okay, so on Tuesday I've got a maths exam. So the Monday I'm going to go over my math stuff. On Thursday I've got French and physics. So on the Wednesday I'm going to do Quizlet and active learn homeworks, whatever it was. So I made sure that every single day before an exam I was doing something for the subject the day after, if you know what I mean. So it basically just, it was another revision planning thing. So whether you make a revision timetable, whether you do something like that, whether you write a list, whatever you want to do, plan out your revision now so that when you come to that week before, because you're going to be stressed out, you're going to forget things, you might even think, oh my god, I've got an exam tomorrow, and you know, oh, things might crop up, like your friends go, oh, do you want to go out, and you're like, actually I've planned in revision, which is another thing, leads me on smoothly. If your friends try to start pressuring you into going out, or say you want to spend the morning revising before school, and your friends are like, oh, do you want to do, like, you know, mess around in the classroom or whatever, just, if you want, say no, because it's a couple weeks before the exams, and then it'll all be over and you've got plenty of time to, you know, mess around with your mates or whatever. But if you're one of those people that wants to do work in the half an hour you've got before school, and you're feeling pressured by other people, just tell them, like, look, I've got 3 weeks or whatever, and I really want to do well in these exams. And yes, not everyone is going to be, you know, all on it for their exams, and not everyone's going to want to revise, and not everyone's going to care about what they want to, you know, achieve in the GCSEs. But if you are feeling pressured, then just feel like, I can't just, you know, I hate saying, just say, you know, you don't want to or whatever, because sometimes people just like, they're like, oh, come on, let's, you know, half an hour today won't make a difference, but it can add up. So just remember to stay, you know, true to yourself and make sure that you are doing what's best for you. Okay, that got deep. Lastly, don't compare yourself to others. Everyone revises differently. So please don't panic because you've not made all the mind maps that I did for science, because you will have done things that I've never done. Don't panic if you've not made a revision timetable, because I didn't make a revision timetable. I just planned out, I wrote a list of things I wanted to get done in a week and then ticked it off when I done what I'd done. Because a revision timetable never worked for me. Everyone does things differently, so don't compare yourself to others because you're just going to stress yourself out more, and this time of year is already stressful enough. Thank you for watching this really long video. If you have any more video ideas, then also leave them in the comments below. If there's anything else you want on the lead up to exams, then yeah, let me know. And I'll see you later. Bye!